It's April 23rd. We're doing government and security, and Krista's still on vacation. Apparently. Like, she was supposed to be back, but she had some adventures in her adventure that she was not adventuring for.
We think she's in town, but no one can locate her.
It's going to be a whole new cheese counter story.
We'll soldier on ahead. Maybe she'll appear throughout the week. Who knows? But let's start out with, hang on, let me remember what order. Oh, yes. The terrible news first. And this is indeed absolutely terrible news. And this is something that every time it comes up for renewal, there's kind of like a push against it, but not enough of a push, unfortunately.
The House has voted to renew a major U.S. spy program. This is the clown shoes story where it's like, we would like to live up to American ideals. And then it's like, well, wait, but we do this. And it's just like, oh, disappointing.
So that's the foreign surveillance. And you might be thinking, well, foreign surveillance, that doesn't affect me, right? Well, then you've not read much about it, because the accidental Americans that got caught up in that was a very, very large number over the years.
As in all of them but 3.
And and they're going to get slightly more power this time around, which is upsetting.
We'll talk about that because it has to do with like the wiretap thing. It's like, how do we wiretap phones when phones are ephemeral and software based?
Turns out they have an answer. It's a bad one. Now, that is just the House, so it still has to go through the Senate. I suppose there's a meager chance that it gets beaten, but I kind of doubt it. But the House has also put through this bill, which is perhaps a glimmer of hope, I guess.
House passes a bill requiring a warrant to purchase data from third parties. This is a good thing, although the bar for acquiring this type of warrant is still pretty low. But this is better than nothing, because that's where we've been, is forcing companies to do this. The part that the Hill doesn't talk about is that what is closing in around us for this that makes this kind of warrant obsolete is that the feds have new powers to compel companies to help them surveil citizens. Like, it might not have been physically possible for an email provider, say, to decrypt someone's email hosted on their system because the decryption key only exists on the client PC, not at the provider.
But now you can be compelled. If you work in any part of the IT infrastructure, the feds can come to you and say, hey, you got to spy on this guy. And you might say, I don't want to do that. That's not my job. And they're going to say, here's a court order. You're going to do it. And when they come and round you up for your wrong think, trying to hide your identity from them will also be impossible, because they're going to have all access to your phone. No more gray key required.
Cops can force suspects to unlock their phone with a thumbprint, the U.S. court rules. You can't force somebody to divulge the contents of their mind, but their fingerprint, that's fair game. It seems just like a weird standard.
And they accomplish the same thing.
Yeah.
One is just a convenience compared to the other. So
now, what if I've got a Bluetooth implant in my brain and my phone is connected to my brain via Bluetooth?
We're going to get out our brain fuzzing device and stuff your head into it until that activates.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people's phones are such a personal device that you cannot divulge the contents of your mind. There is actually case law for this, for diaries. Like, is someone's diary admissible in court? And the answer is not always. Sometimes it's not.
Now, we do have the TikTok ban as well. You might be thinking, well, the TikTok ban, I haven't been hearing as much about that. Maybe it's not as popular as it once was. And so how are they going to push that through? Well, they've got an answer for that. It's a disgusting one. Interestingly, the Variety headline didn't lead with it. A lot of them did.
The odds of U.S. TikTok ban increase after House fast tracks revised bill picking up key Senate support. So this is not outlawing TikTok specifically, but like social media and other aspects. But really, it's about TikTok.
More importantly, it has been bundled. Oh, aren't bundles a good value? Because with this bundle, you're going to get your TikTok ban and your Ukraine and Israel foreign aid all in one little package.
Fabulous.
So if you like one of those things and you don't like the others, sorry.
It's weird how that works.
Every time. And as we're recording, I think like yesterday or today was I bet you had your calendar marked, right? For the big Taylor Swift release.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations. She's doing a good job. She seems reasonable.
Well,
she seems like a reasonable human being in this drought of
I don't know if there's any proof of that. But it is reasonable for one enemy that she has, who seems to be an enemy of all musicians, especially the popular touring ones.
Department of Justice to file antitrust suit against Live Nation. Why? Because there's a lot of people that want to see, okay. We all know that ticket scalping is a thing and it's horrible and should stop.
But more importantly, the big monopoly push, right? Well, Live Nation owns Ticketmaster, yeah, but the thing is, they also own every venue at this point. So, monopoly?
What are you going to do? Have Taylor Swift go to the local, Carl's Jr.? I don't think that's going to work.
Good luck getting security for that. Parking.
I don't know. The Carl's Jr.'s in Idiocracy seemed like they had stadium seating.
And we got a AI. The government is taking over AI. Remember, Kamala Harris is our AI czar.
This is the most disappointing story this week.
And we have to have someone in charge of AI, right? Other than her, I guess. So who do we choose? Well, we have a name.
Ars Technica has the correct headline. The feds have appointed an AI doomer, quote unquote, to run AI safety at a U.S. institute. And so this is so disappointing because as like doom and gloom as we are, I'm actually optimistic overall for AI. Like we might have a rough spot before, like it might be really, really dark before the dawn, but these folks don't see the dawn. They just see the darkness. And they probably don't even see the right kind of darkness, which is the really disappointing thing.
I mean, I see the autonomous jets. That seems like a darkness on the horizon.
So this type of AI doom is a type of weaponized AI doom to be anti-competitive.
Yes, for sure.
And so that's a whole other dimension. Like, how do you unpack that? Like, how should we, the people that are watching this program and us, unpack to a normal audience to say that, like, there are dangers that AI can do this and this. There's probably not a danger that AI is going to do this type of thing. But these people that want a competitive advantage are misstating the dangers of AI in order that they maintain a competitive advantage for themselves.
It's very easy. The analog is gun control. Because no one who supports gun control supports a ban on guns. No one who supports AI control supports a ban on AI. Well, actually, maybe some of them.
Yeah, some of these doomers definitely.
What they support is controlling who gets to have the AI, which in this case will be the United States government, and who gets to approve it and who gets to control it. And probably, much like guns, this will end up being the individual must be very restricted on their AIs. But Microsoft, OpenAI, will work with them.
Someone I know suggested explaining it as it's like, okay, if we look at this as like Solomonoff induction and it's going to lead to bad things, which is what the AI doomer is doing there, that would be like saying that finding the 43rd busy beaver number will lead to proving the Goldbach conjecture. And I don't think anybody's going to understand that. But it's funny.
Well, I don't understand why we're not more concerned about this, if this is a real thing, or could this be just some election year saber rattling?
The FBI says Chinese hackers are preparing to attack the U.S. infrastructure. Yeah, water companies and everything else. This is one part saber rattling and one part, goodness gracious, our local governments really do not have their I's dotted and their T's crossed when it comes to cybersecurity. And there are adversaries, whether Chinese or whatever, that have been collecting backdoors and access to these things. And they're already there, and it is really bad, but I can't think of a reason why you would just randomly do that in isolation apart from everything else unless you want to harden the infrastructure. If this is done at the same time as a bunch of other things are done on the world stage,
but if we know about it, why would we not do something about it? Why wouldn't we say reallocate some funds from, I don't know, foreign aid to fix the water?
I would be fine if local field agents showed up and it's like, "Hey, I'm Bob. I'm from the government. Let's harden up your firewall here."
No, I want some people who know what they're doing.
Well, we knew like the solar winds thing is really disappointing because they knew that was happening 6 months or a year in advance and nobody did anything. Like something, who benefits from the chaos and insanity that sows versus fixing it? Oh, wait.
An incumbent politician? And the SEC, we've learned that they are a little worried about people using social media on the job. And in fact, they have taken it to the banning level.
The SEC targets its own staff's texting and Nixes WhatsApp on work phones. I have a feeling that the SEC has narrowly avoided a couple of scandals because of information that has been lost to those applications, and so now they must ban them.
Yeah, well, we've learned about the stuff going behind the scenes there. A couple of people got caught doing that, which means there was probably 100% or like 1,000% more doing it. And artificial intelligence continues to leach into the government, which can't be a good thing, but here it is.
State tax officials are using AI to go after wealthy payers. So this is New York City. Or is it state? New York City or New York State? I can't remember.
State.
They are using AI to, like, the way this is described seems like I'm normally not one to advocate for a federal intervention, but the tax people are saying, this is basically a fishing expedition. We're sending people these letters to say, AI has flagged your stuff. It looks like you're suspicious. Listen, if people in the government say this is a fishing expedition, that is like, you don't understand the role the government is supposed to serve.
We didn't hire you to fish.
Yeah, well, but if you're, like, government is not supposed to work that way.
But specifically, this is the people who digital nomaded right out of New York. They're like, oh, wait, I can keep this job, but I don't have to pay these housing prices, and I can live somewhere where there's not a bunch of crime. I'll take that. And New York was like, no, we need that money. So they're trying to find any little loophole, and they're using AI to search for them. So if you didn't fill all your paperwork out properly or whatever, you're going to be enjoying an audit.
And so a federal intervention, like how do you deal with that?
I'm not allowed to say. And crypto, of course, the crypto alarmism is really being turned up lately. We saw it last week. We continue to see it this week.
Crypto, the legal system is closing in on crypto, and things may only get worse. Complete with a voyeur shot of Sam Bankman-Fried getting the metal detector pat down.
Can you imagine him showing up in court with a shank?
Is this a paid article for making people feel guilty if they own crypto? That's what it seems like.
I think it's a paid article for central bank digital currency. It's dangerous. We have to fix it. Remember what we were talking about earlier? Cause the problem, solve the problem.
Do you own your own Bitcoin that's not in a central repository? That sounds like...
Oh, there's an IRS agent. An AI IRS agent needs to speak to you about that. And we're getting the net neutrality back. Oh, that vote's soon, right? It hasn't happened yet, I don't think. At least as of filming this. But some people are not happy with it. They're saying that it actually doesn't go far enough.
Ars Technica's headline is ISPs can charge extra for fast gaming under FCC's internet rules, according to the critics. And this is one where I don't know that I agree. I worry that this kind of thing... So what they're saying is that ISPs shouldn't be able to charge more for service plans that would say prioritize low latency connections as a gamer or VoIP or streamer or something like that might use. And I disagree. I think that's okay. I think that if you have a plan that is, this is the bandwidth that we're going to give you and this is the latency that we're targeting, that's fine. And if there's different price tiers for that, that's fine. I worry that the people that are sounding this alarm are really just people adding to the noise.
It's lobbyists. It's cable lobbyists.
To just confuse the issue.
They're attacking it on something that, they're just trying to tear it down any way they can. I mean, it makes sense. Like, yeah, you might need a car that does a different thing than the car that I have.
Yeah.
But, yeah, some of them are for hauling. Some of them want to go fast. Some of them are just utilitarian. Not everybody wants to pay a bunch of money for Facebook. So it makes sense to have tiered ISP levels as long as like the data caps and all that stuff don't leach into it.
One thing I always look for when people are making these kind of claims is an individual with their own networking equipment can decide what is priority. Like that is built into basically every router of the last 10 years. And nobody ever talks about that. So like if I have a measly 1 megabit connection from my ISP and I say that VoIP traffic gets priority and web and, basically everything else is low priority, you could subsist in 1 megabit. That'd be okay.
And this story has played out, I think, 2 or 3 times already. It was Australia, Canada, and it was France doing this. It's always the same, and I think it's going to play out the same this time, too. Just replace the second name.
Google threatens to cut off news after California proposed paying media outlets. It's like California is a mini Canada. Canada beat California to something? That's weird. Usually it's Canada that's copying California.
I'll give you a preview how this is going to play out. They're going to make a deal with the biggest news publishers, and all of the independent media will be choked out, and there will be a government big tech news alliance like there is everywhere else.
You know who the loser is in that? Carl's hot dog blog.
And the news consumers, the people who are being awash in propaganda, which is what all this is, really. And here in the beautiful bluegrass, we are taking a major step forward now. I've not driven San Francisco or Phoenix roads, but I've driven these roads. I don't see this going well.
Kentucky lawmakers override veto and okay fully autonomous vehicles, but it's going to require a $1 million insurance policy. There's some other caveats. I actually see this probably happening with interstate driving because we have a lot of traffic through I-75 and other interstates that run through the area. And that's probably all the autonomous vehicles that we will see will be doing for at least the first 5 years or so. I think Amazon also has a lot to do with this. Their distribution center, a lot of those trucks are already automated.
The drivers around here are going to be the biggest issue. That's probably true everywhere, though, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm all for local government over federalism, but sometimes you get a local government who is a little too enthusiastic, probably biting off more than they really should here. I can't see them being able to keep this secure.
No.
Can you?
Polk County Sheriff launches internet surveillance. They're going to just look for our local citizens online and just scrape all their stuff.
Now, they say Polk County Sheriff. It's not quite true. It's, what was the name of the company? Shadow Dragon. Oh, that's the name of the software. Made by a Wyoming-based software company. Did I not give the name here? Anyway, this is kind of like the flock cameras.
Yeah.
They've contracted with a third-party surveillance company and given them the legal right to do it, which we shouldn't even have that. So now a company in Wyoming will be monitoring you if you live in Polk County, Florida.
My favorite one that we haven't done a story on yet is the companies that will go to the property valuation people and use drones to take pictures of everybody's house from the air and then do the same thing in a year. And then the people that have built decks illegally have changed the value of their house. And then the PVA will reevaluate the value of their house, charge them taxes. And then based on the tax increase, the company running the photography program gets paid.
I imagine there's probably a caveat here where they're going to get a little something per prosecution,
Yeah.
right? Something like that.
That's if Krista were here, she would say that sounds like a boring dystopia.
I don't know. It sounds kind of like a hot dystopia. This is actively bad.
I would like to build a deck on my house. You got a license for that?
And soon, do you have a license for, I don't know, your own thoughts?
Your brainwaves are up for sale. A new law wants to change that. The New York Times, I think they get a lot wrong in this article, I think. But there are, like Newman Marcus type things where you put on the headband and an app on your phone helps you meditate. And
Or sleep.
This article supposes that, wait a minute, this is collecting brainwave data and you don't own it. At least not according to the terms of service. What does that mean?
It means they're selling it. And somebody's trying to figure out a way to go through it and find things. And they're probably using artificial intelligence, which means they might. And even if they don't, they'll be able to goal seek what they want it to say about you. So when the digital currency comes along, you can be unpersoned. You can be like, oh, yeah, you had these thoughts, and now you're gone. You're out of the system. What? I don't remember those thoughts. They were subconscious. Moving over to the UK, they also are looking at dealing with AI, but they're a little bit questionable about it because they don't have big AI companies pouring money into their tax base, and they want it.
UK mulling potential AI regulation. The country's new AI institute has been evaluating AI models for safety. You know what that means? That means they download them off the internet and they immediately jump into, how do I do this horrible antisocial thing? How do I do this other horrible antisocial thing? And if it doesn't respond with, as a large language model, I don't know if we should be doing that there, guy.
Has Rishi Sunak ever done anything wrong? And if the answer is anything but absolutely not, he's a gem of a man. Strike. Get that off the market. And some bad news for big tech over in Europe, as usual. Just like these really have to start adding up. It shows you how much money these people make because they can keep paying these fines.
Apple loses its bid to throw out UK lawsuit over App Store fees. This is a Reuters headline. And you think this is going to be one of those hilarious lawsuits where, but no, the app developer actually has got a pretty good argument here. It's like, we don't cost Apple anything. We would like to not be a part of this, but we literally cannot participate. And
it drives their sales.
Yeah.
They benefit from it. So that's $1 billion lawsuit if they lose it, which will sting a little bit, even if you're Apple. And this is interesting. I'm assuming, I don't think they made it clear, but when they say deepfake, it has to be based on a real person, right?
Yeah.
How would you prove that?
Jury trial and convince enough of the jury?
I would just be like, hey, this is my imaginary girlfriend, Stephanie, and she just happens to look a lot like Taylor Swift.
Creating explicit deepfake images to be made an offense in the UK. Not deepfakes, it's making an explicit deepfake without somebody's permission. It can be a made-up person, but it can't be a real person.
Yeah, I don't know how you prove that. I guess that you would have to like get the prompt that went into it, right?
Yeah.
And then that could prove it.
You'd also need the seed.
Which means that they're going to be tracking all that. Because there's no other way to enforce that.
Or it's going to be one of those prove you're innocent things. It's like, you didn't save the seed? Well, good luck searching all 4 billion seeds.
And good luck getting any money from your European users anymore if you are Mark Zuckerberg, because the pay-to-play thing is not flying.
Meta is out of options. The EU regulators reject its privacy fee for Facebook and Instagram. This was a plan that we talked about a little bit, where Meta was going to say, all right, we'll allow people to pay the money that we would make from them and then not sell their data the way that we would for using the platform. And strangely, EU regulators said, no, we don't want to do that.
We want your money. Probably going to get it. And over at TikTok, they're also looking for more money. Now, if you were TikTok and you were in the crosshairs of all these countries, why would you say to yourself, you know what we should do? We should take our app, which we know is addictive and we've engineered to be addictive, and let's give it more of a reward mechanism so it becomes even more addictive.
TikTok questioned by EU over their Lite app, which pays, quote-unquote, users for watching videos.
So the Lite app gives you little missions, I guess. Watch this many videos, like this many videos, comment on this many videos, blah, blah, blah. And then it gives you little like coupons or small payments or whatever in exchange for that, which is just, that's those rats hitting that button in the cage. It's like, oh yeah, give me the treats, give me the treats. And the EU's like, really, TikTok? This is really what you're doing now?
Only 47 more likes, and we'll give you a free copy of Candy Crush. It's like,
I think TikTok's going to be looking to buy some likes from the parliament members. And when we talk about the central bank digital currency, a big part of that's going to be putting all of your identity and everything online as well. So again, it can all just be wiped out with the touch of a button. Should you participate in any wrong think?
The UK e-visa rollout starts today for millions. No more physical immigration cards. Nothing would ever go horribly wrong with this at all.
Now, didn't they just have an airport issue?
Yeah.
That kind of shut the country down for a while?
Yeah.
Some people brought up things like that, and they were like, hey, what if this goes down because this is always online, and right now I can use my passport offline, and it's fine. And they were like, don't worry about that. We're going to make a backup. So it's never going to go down.
Can I have a backup? Is there can I have a QR code or something that's like, look, I'm not trying to scam anybody?
No, it's not a backup of your identity. It's a backup of the system. So when the system goes down, we'll still have a backup. But it'll still be online. So if any of the wires between you and the system go down,
that's weird.
could be an issue. And if you are this lawyer, you are in a lot of trouble. Your career is going to suffer for this.
Judge refuses to undo Ctrl-Z, a divorce order made by a misclick. So this is a law firm, and the law firm was, using some software to generate some forms, and one of them was a divorce form, and they accidentally clicked the wrong client. It was the next client in an alphabetical list of their clients, than the client that they needed to file the divorce for. And so they went to the judge and they said, hey, you already signed this divorce order, but it turns out those were the wrong people. And the judge says, sorry about your luck.
One of the people, and because that was another divorce settlement, it just wasn't resolved yet. And one of the people was like, oh, yeah, I like this. Yeah, this sounds great. And China and the U.S. are still in our chip war. I mean, it's easy to get distracted by the actual war in the Middle East. But the chip war is still raging on, and they keep raising the stakes.
Chinese companies are using U.S. chips from Intel and AMD, but China would like them to stop. And we've got another story later about how Chinese internal chip production is up 40%. Meanwhile, we're struggling to keep to a factory construction schedule.
And when the CCP says they would like you to stop, it basically means, hey, if you don't understand this, talk to Jack Ma.
It would be a shame if something happened to your knees.
Or your family. But yes. It turns out China, when banned from newer chips, shockingly was just like, all right, we'll make old chips. And we'll make them as we do as China in large volumes.
China's semiconductor output jumps 40% in the first quarter amid growing dominance in legacy chips. Yeah, what's going on, America? Come on. Get the program. We need to start cranking out stuff.
I mean, does it matter if we have all the state-of-the-art CPUs and GPUs if all of our network equipment is filled with this stuff?
If the people are just living in the water treatment plant, it's like, we'll just turn this off.
Or our cars.
Yeah.
And China also has a tight grip. It's funny how, we look at America and America's like, oh, we should get rid of TikTok. And how long has it been now? A year?
Yeah.
And China's just like, turn a switch.
Apple deletes WhatsApp and Threads from China app stores on orders from Beijing. It really didn't take them long to look at and evaluate these apps either. It was basically an overnight decision.
They evaluated what they were told, not the apps. And free speech absolutist Elon Musk has walked back a couple of things this week.
X has blocked posts in India after election commission order. Now, it's Brazil. I don't know why, but Brazil is the place where but in India, it's just like, no. And India has ordered X to do something. X will comply. X is not going to give it to you, as a matter of fact.
I think we got a Brazil story that disputes what you just said. But in Pakistan, they also had a little election issue. They had the dude that's in jail, Imran Khan. And he was posting on X, and the incumbents were like, no, we will get rid of X. But the Pakistan High Court, which I assume is like our Supreme Court, has said a surprising thing.
They said that the High Court has said that they must restore X within 1 week. It has been not accessible or intermittently accessible since January for the entire country of Pakistan.
So they're supposed to get it back. That'll be interesting. And this is Canada. Canada is having a bit of a housing argument in their government. As we talked about last week, some of the people are like, hey, why don't we just count everything as a house, right? Nursing homes, college dorms.
This cardboard box.
And so they're trying to sort of defeat each other on technicalities. And this was a big one.
Liberals accuse conservatives of using AI for amendments to its jobs bill as votes loom.
Because there was a lot of them. And they seem to have been like low quality spam.
And it would take 15 hours to vote on it all as it was. Is this going to be one of those things where we accidentally are requiring by law everyone to have a hammer?
I think this is a dark look into our future. And yes, a poorly sorted Twitter article, but Mr. Free Speech Absolutist, I guess somebody pulled him aside, maybe the lawyers, and they were like, Elon, look, you can't be doing this.
X reverses course and tells Brazil court it will comply with the rulings and take stuff down. This is the thing that Elon Musk tweeted about and said, no, this is against the law in some other country, and this is what Brazil wants, and so we can't do this. I don't know what's happening. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Do you think he ever notices any of the people who's like, really, compare this to what you do in China and India?
Well, listen, kidney harvesting is legal there.
What would you pay for an Elon Musk kidney? I wouldn't pay anything. All that ketamine floating around in there. And moving on to security, here is a blast from the past that has come back to haunt us once again.
Spectre V2 attack impacts Linux systems on Intel CPUs. There's some things to look for if your system is impacted, and some mitigations. It's a little bit more difficult to deal with in terms of mitigations this time around.
But all the big ones have some kind of plan and recommendations. So confirmed impact. That's not really a recommendation, is it? It's just watch out. And Discord seems to be sort of maximizing on Reddit's falling star. But to think that they're a better place to go, probably not.
A spy site is scraping Discord and selling users' messages. 404 Media tested the service called SpyPet and confirmed that it does actually work. They reached out to Discord for comment, and Discord said, that's weird. This shouldn't be possible. They're looking into it.
We're paywalled, but they'd have a screenshot. You can just go in and put somebody's username in, and if they have information on them, you can buy it. So easy. And so easy to steal every aspect of your identity. Because of this is a security problem that there is no solution for. And it's terrifying.
T-Mobile employees across the country receive cash now to illegally swap SIMs. And it's because T-Mobile's employee database was compromised. And so it's like, hey, I got your contact info from the T-Mobile employee database. I'll give you $300 cash money right now. Just swap this SIM for me.
T-Mobile actually had the balls to come out and say, we don't know where they got this data from. Could it be one of the many leaks that you've had?
That should tell you how bad T-Mobile security is. Quite bad.
They've not found anybody that actually went for it. And some of them were smart enough to just go to the T-Mobile and be like, hey, look, this is happening. I'm not doing this. Because they would catch the employees right away.
Yeah.
You would burn hard for that, while the actual criminals would go free. And Roku, another fall from grace, and another.
We were literally. You said that last week about Roku. Like it was a different fall from grace.
And this had already happened.
Yeah,
we just didn't know yet.
Roku makes two-factor authentication mandatory for all after nearly 600,000 accounts have been pwned. So we reported on this security issue not last week. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. And then last week we were talking about how set-top boxes and Android Fire Stick and all the other stuff has basically become unusable, as it's like, oh, now that we've got a lot of people using it, let's make it terrible so that we can squeeze more money out of them. Well, Roku is now making two-factor mandatory, which will probably lead to a lot of people ditching Roku and deploying a mini PC, which you can watch some of our other videos for that kind of thing.
They blame this on credential stuffing. I don't know if I believe that.
They blame this on having insanely poor security.
You know who else has insanely poor security, but you're not allowed to ever not do business with or opt out of?
The DOJ, well, technically this breach is not the DOJ, but DOJ-Collected information exposed in data breach affecting 340,000. Somehow Gary McKinnon and Associates avoided the big headline, but they are at least in the little headline. They're the people responsible for the leak, but the DOJ had hired them as a contractor to deal with stuff.
But they collected the information.
Yeah.
They don't need it.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting one. It turns out that there is a big list that gets shared, probably pretty secretly. I don't know, have you ever heard of this before? Amongst all the financial institutions and countries and airports and stuff, kind of like the no-fly list. Well, guess what?
Hackers are threatening to leak World Check, a huge sanctions and financial crimes watch list. That database has 5.3 million records. So I guess you could figure out if you're in it. Basically, if you've ever transferred a large amount of cash or done anything remotely suspicious, you get logged in this database. It's a commercial database, too. It's not a government one.
And it's happened before.
It's part of the Know Your Customer. Like, you can look that up. KYC, the Know Your Customer initiative stuff. If you've ever withdrawn like $5,000 in cash from a bank, you're probably on the list.
Seems like a pretty low bar.
Yeah, that seems suspicious. That seems like a low bar, especially with runaway inflation.
Although only 5 million globally. Maybe that's part of it. And the AI attacks continue to get better. Thankfully, this guy figured it out, because if you work at this company, you better have a little bit of security under your belt. I mean, Jesus.
A hacker voice cloned the CEO of LastPass for an attack. So this hacker reached out to an employee of LastPass and said, "Hey, I'm the CEO. I sound like the CEO. I need you to do this. It's a really urgent situation." Unfortunately, the employee said, "This seems fishy." It basically is all the red flags.
Why are you contacting me on WhatsApp for the first time ever? I don't ever hear from you. You run this company. And Change Healthcare, they had a bad hack. It was rough. And we are now, of course, always after the fact, figuring out how bad really was it? How do we measure it?
Change Healthcare's ransomware attack costs are edging toward $1 billion so far. So that was the ransomware attack that shut down pharmacies a couple weeks ago. And the damages from that are still counting, but we've passed the $1 billion mark.
Shows you how expensive our healthcare and medicine is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And if you've ever looked at a house that is being sold, the real estate agents will usually have some sort of like special app to get you in there and manage all that. Obviously, they don't have all the keys. Well, bad news about that.
I love this headline. Nothing but crickets from the Chirp Systems, which is the people that make those smart locks, in the key leak. So this is somebody that figured out, hey, I know how all of the Chip Systems keys work. I can unlock them all. And Chirp Systems looked at that and has not said anything.
So they've proven that they can pull keys out of this app and unlock any door that it's used on. And one of the guys who figured it out was actually selling a house, or had one managed by Chirp for some reason. And he went to him and he was like, "Hey, look at all this. I don't feel good about this." And they were like, "Oh, here you go." They give him a physical fob. But he was like, "No, it's not that I can't get in. It's that everybody else can." That's what I'm worried about. And we've actually seen this headline before.
This is alarmist, but not inaccurate.
We might have actually done this actual story before, because it was April the 11th.
Yeah.
You know what? It bears repeating.
96% of U.S. hospital websites share visitor info with Meta, Google, and data brokers. But it's an improvement over 98% from last year. So what they're talking about is tracking pixels. It's not actually that Google or Meta is hooked into the hospital's information systems network. It's just that when the website is built, they want to know analytical data, or they want to know, what people have done. Maybe a doctor has a blog. If the doctor has a blog and there's a like button on the blog, that's probably hooked up to Meta. That's what this article is talking about. So this isn't as bad as Meta's just in there scraping your medical records. But Meta can know which hospital you deal with, which is perhaps not something people really want other people to know, or would want Meta to know.
Well, they could also know when you're logging in.
Yeah.
They may be able to see some of that form data.
Maybe able to
do it wrong.
Yeah, it's like we're just going to use the contact web form to do like a new patient scheduling, and it's like, ooh, a copy of that form is probably logged in a database somewhere.
Well, it's interesting how we, in this purely connected world, it's so common for people to like just send money to other people that they like. And people do it for us. It's great. It's a fun thing to do. But
thank you.
You really have to be careful, and you really have to vet who you're actually sending that money to.
How scammers have sunk to a new low with an AI obituary scam targeting the grieving. Basically, notice that someone dies. Set up a page where it's like, hey, let's send them a bunch of money, and then just collect money and don't actually send it.
I thought they'd have a screenshot. It's all just stock photography on this Fox News site. So yeah, AI is basically monitoring social media for popular people who die, because that's, you get the most, that's the biggest honeypot. Then they SEO up a web page to be like, oh, the obituary, and the clicks to donate, maybe donating to something fake, but it might also just be clickbait to get you onto like some other horrible site, or to trick you into thinking you got malware or something like that. It's reprehensible, but it won't stop. And Mr. Musk, while he is sidestepping all that free speech absolutism, he's also hand in hand with the dark deep state government.
Reuters has the exclusive, they say. Northrop Grumman is working with Musk's SpaceX on the U.S. spy satellite system because, gosh darn it, Musk is the only one that can launch a rocket every day, sometimes three times a day. That's some impressive staying power right there.
And we need that to blanket the world in surveillance.
What if every Starlink satellite was also a surveillance satellite? That would be incredible.
Was it 720, 702, whatever it is?
Yeah.
They could. I mean, if I'm not misinterpreting that, they could go to Elon and be like, yeah, we've got to get into all the Starlinks. And legally, he'd have to do it and he'd have to keep it a secret.
That's so weird.
Weird is one way of describing
I
it.
thought we were the free country.
And finally, if you are a Frontier customer, it has probably been a very frustrating week for you. I'm sorry.
Frontier communications systems have been shut down after a cyber attack. Now, it seemed like I tried to dig into this a little more. This seems like the bill payment systems and customer service systems are the most affected, but for the most part, it seemed like the customer networks are up, but there are a couple patches where the customer networks are down.
And when you go to call, the call center's down. And when you go to the website's down. So you're in the dark, suffering without internet.
So the question is Frontier the type of company to turn people off that are late payment anyway? Or give them, an extra week grace period?
There's probably an automated system.
We literally couldn't stop it. It's a dead man's switch. If we don't check in with it to be like, hey, he paid his bill, they're just going to turn you off. Okay. Fun times.
You're going to have to do it again this week. Chris is AWOL.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, join us tomorrow. Bye.